Welcome to the You Go First podcast. This is the place where we bring together thought leaders, business pioneers, personal development gurus, and just about any person we discover that will inspire and compel you to go first in all areas of your life. Please welcome keynote speaker, philanthropist, and the official head dream chaser for Odyssey Teams, Inc., our host, Lane Hensley.
All right, you go first.
You go first.
All right, Coach, I will go first. And I do say Coach because we're blessed again to be interviewing another impactful person. I know my tennis coach changed my life, and I'm always thankful to be able to not only sit down with a fellow Wildcat. I know he went to Chico State, played at Chico State.
Yeah, great experience in
Chico.
I
love it. Well, who doesn't? So if you're at Chico, if you've ever been to Chico, well, we are in Chico here, and it's Wildcat country. I am proud to introduce the head basketball coach at Chico State, one of my good friend's sons playing for you right now, and celebrating 15 years at the helm as the head coach.
Yep.
I think you led us to playoffs at 13 of those 15 years.
Yep.
I don't know if that was like after the first two or somewhere in the middle. Maybe we dipped a little.
We had a rough first year when I took the program over, but then after that it got going, and we've had a lot of success. It's been great.
Awesome. Yeah. I know when I was in high school, a little fun fact, I graduated in 1985. One of our basketball stars went to Stanford. Didn't have a great time there. Transferred to Chico State. Okay. Doug Wall, he was around back in the day, played. So playing at Chico State, Kelly Fitzhugh, I think, is also.
Kelly was an assistant coach when I was on the team.
And I know Kelly Fitzhugh went to high school with me, and he's a coach, I believe, up in Shasta College, I think.
Been there over 20-some years. Yeah, he's had a long career up there.
So the official introducing to the You Go First studio. Thanks for joining us in the conversation to hear with Coach here about his philosophies, leadership, culture, coaching, legacy, and so we'll dive right in. Thank you, Coach, for being with us.
Thank you for having
today.
me. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Excited.
You're welcome. Well, to help us all out, those things I didn't say already, give us the legacy of you going from a little kid basketball player to now head coach for 15 years at Chico State.
I've always loved athletics and sports, and grew up playing basketball from the time I was about 10 years old. Basketball, little league, soccer, just loved sports. Had very supportive parents that introduced me to a lot of different things, but basketball was always my first love and the thing that I love to do most. Always knew from a time I was probably 14 that I wanted to coach. When I got to Chico State, I thought I wanted to go back and be a high school basketball coach and teacher back in my hometown, and then I got involved in the Chico State program and had such a great experience at the college level that I really decided that college basketball is what I wanted to pursue. So I graduated from Chico State, stuck around, did 2 years of grad school, worked for Puck Smith, who I played for.
Oh, nice.
You know him. He took me on as an assistant coach and gave me a lot of experience during grad school. From there, I went to UC Davis and worked for a great coach named Bob Williams for a year at UC Davis. The following year, I was a junior college head coach at the age of 26. That was a learning experience.
Which JC? Where were you?
Gavilan College, back where I'm from, in Gilroy.
Oh, okay.
I grew up in Morgan Hill, born in Gilroy. Went to Gavilan before coming to Chico State, so I had an opportunity to go be the head coach there for 9 months.
Okay.
And then Bob Williams won the national Division II national championship at UC Davis that year. That was 98, and he got the UC Santa Barbara job. And so then after that year at Gavilan, I went down and was an assistant coach at UC Santa Barbara for 2 years, then went back to Davis as an assistant for 8 years, and then got this job here at Chico State 2008. So,
that's important history, I think, because coaches, they follow the examples that they see as other coaches, whether you're breaking clipboards and, putting your guys on the line and, torturing them, or if you're the kind of coach that kind of comes alongside and really, builds that relationship through relationship influence and not just position influence. So let's jump to like coaching philosophy.
Well, as I go through that coaching history, I worked for 4 different head coaches. So there was 4 different philosophies, 4 different ways of doing things while I was an assistant coach, working for Coach Smith at Chico State, working for Bob Williams at Davis and Santa Barbara. I worked for 2 different coaches when I got back to UC Davis the second time, and saw a lot of great things from a lot of different people. And then also saw things that, I said, well, I would do this differently. So it was 14 years as an assistant coach, and I really formulated a vision vision of what I wanted a program to look like if I ever got my opportunity to be a head coach. And that's really what I've done for the last 16 years, 15 seasons, but 16 years at Chico State. Really implementing those things when I took the program over and building the culture and really having that vision of what I want it to look like. And then every year it's finding different ways to make it better, to tweak it, improve it. But my philosophy in terms of coaching is, it's really about compassion and love and relationship building. Basketball, as I mentioned, is the sport that I fell in love with. Like I played tennis and then volleyball. Mm-hmm.
I was an okay basketball player. But what is it that you love most about basketball?
I think that's a great question. I think the thing that I loved about basketball was the intensity level. I was a pretty good little baseball player, but my mindset wasn't geared for, if I've struck out, I would, if you strike out in baseball, you got to have the patience and the discipline to wait 3 innings to get another crack at it, where that mental part, I couldn't, I wanted it now. Like I wanted to fix that mistake now. And I think basketball is one of those sports where you can do that. You can come down on the offensive end and make a mistake, turn it over, take a bad shot, miss a shot, and 10 seconds later, do something to counteract it on the other end. But that intensity, the aggression, the physicality, the skill set, everything about it, the fluidity of the game, the teamwork when you're playing on a really good team with really good players that have that same type of basketball philosophy with sharing the ball and playing hard and rallying around each other. It does, for me, it doesn't get any better than that.
Now, you're touching on some things, and I know we could talk for hours about these different things, but we talk about sharing the ball. Like I play from a volleyball coaching mindset. Mm-hmm. And what I love about basketball that's so different is you got to choose to share the ball.
Sure.
You're building a culture of, sometimes very diverse as far as income and personalities. And you can just, I'm taking the ball up and I don't have to pass the ball. I can just launch it. In volleyball, you touch it once, but you hope it comes, it's a different thing. So let's jump into here you go. You get the head coaching job. You step into trying to build culture. If John Wooden has his pyramid of success, pyramid, what's the Coach Clink like?
Yeah, well, you talk about that first day and that first year of taking over the program. When I took over the Chico State program, there had been a couple down years, and there was some guys that just weren't the right fit in terms of character and wanting to get an education and do things the right way. And so that first year, it really wasn't about winning basketball games for us. It was about changing the culture of the program, improving the culture of the program, finding guys that were good basketball players. We need good basketball players, but really it was about guys that were high character. And I've really always operated in terms of, we were talking about recruiting before we got on air here. And my recruiting philosophy is to recruit really good basketball players that are great people. And that's what we did in that first year. Was we went out and we tried to identify really good basketball players that we thought we could develop and make us better, but great people that were going to buy into our vision, buy into the culture of the program, go to class, guys that cared about an education, guys that were accountable, guys that were honest, guys that were going to work hard, be passionate, be fun to be around.
Thanks for going there. Because there may be a future athlete that's looking at Chico State that's watching going, okay, what does Coach believe in? So I heard hard work. I heard
hard work, selflessness, honesty,
going to class.
Education. We've turned down really good basketball players because they either didn't care about their education, they weren't willing to put the type of effort, weren't coachable, not selfless, and that's not how there's programs that it's all about just the best basketball player you can get or the best athlete you can get, and all the character stuff is second. Well, that's not how we do it here. We've been successful, highly successful, because we recruit character first. We want guys that are going to work hard, care about their education, go to class, be fun to be around, care about their teammates, be great teammates, be selfless. Everybody's got their own personal goals and personal agenda, but that personal goals and agenda needs to mesh within what we're doing as a team too.
Yeah. I've seen you speak before, and I know you're not always in a timeout talking about basketball.
Right.
you believe that, your career as a basketball athlete is going to end, but the qualities you develop along the way are the things that take you to be a good spouse, a good parent, a good employee, a good person in the community.
Yeah. And you talked about legacy. Like you asked me part of the question at the beginning of this before I got on my rant was legacy, right? Like in terms of winning basketball games, we've had a legacy that has been better than I ever could have imagined here. When I took over this program, I knew that we could win. Now we've won at a level that I wasn't sure I'd think we'd ever could do. So I'm really proud of that.
The ball's got to go in.
The thing that I'm really proud of and the legacy that I really want to leave is what did the guys that played for me end up doing after they graduated, a year after they graduated, 5 years after they graduated, 10, 50, what kind of parents are they? What kind of fathers are they? What kind of husbands are they? What kind of employees are they? And, that's what I'm proud of. I mean, I could list, former player after player after player that are out there doing such amazing things in their communities, career-wise. So in terms of legacy, that's what I'm really proud of. I love to win. Championships are great. You get in the middle of the season, and that's really what drives, the practice sessions and the film sessions and all that. But that's really the avenue that we use to try and create habits with guys, try and create work ethic, try and create camaraderie, try and create that unselfishness. Because some people come in and they're not all perfect when they come in. You've got to teach them how to be part of a team, and you got to teach them how to be selfless, and you got to teach them the type of commitment it takes to really win and be successful at a high level.
Well, it's hard. Obviously, Chico State's a D2 program, which D2 around here is pretty high level, and to be championship level and get to the playoffs, you got to have really good players that are sitting on the bench.
Sure.
You're recruiting stars from high school programs that are like, oh yeah, give me the ball, coach, and they're putting up huge numbers, and then pretty soon they're like, hey, you're a freshman, you're in the practice squad for a while.
And a lot of my job is really communication, role definition, and you talked about the level of basketball that we play. Every single guy, we have 14 guys on our team, okay? And every single guy on our team was the best player on their high school team, or their best player on their junior college team. I mean, and so you put a 14 guys who were the best player on the previous team that they played on, and the competition level is really, really high. And there are guys that started in high school, were stars in high school. They come here. It takes them a little while because there is a development process, and the game is so much faster, and the guys are so much bigger and stronger, and they end up becoming really, really great players here. And then there's other guys that were great players maybe on their high school team that have different roles that they have to adapt to, roles that they aren't used to, coming off the bench, maybe not playing a lot or at all at times. So that probably is the hardest part of my job, is if you have 12 to 14 guys on a team, you're probably only keeping 2/3 of them really happy with their role or their playing time. But it's how do you get those guys that aren't playing, or those guys that don't have those glamorous roles, how do you keep them motivated, and how do you keep them feeling like they're a part of it? Because they are. We need every single guy on the team to perform a role and perform it at a high level if we're going to achieve the type of success that we want to achieve.
Yeah, no question. Keeping them engaged, and the parents or the fans, they see the game, which is the shortest amount of time.
Sure.
You have 12 or 14 hours of practice, and then you got, an hour and a half of a game. There's so much that it takes on and off the court, whether it's your teams are studying together, they're just going to class together. Right. They're some of my best friends, my best man at my wedding I played tennis with. These people are in each other's lives forever.
Yep.
Now, some sports like tennis or volleyball, they tend to maybe attract similar demographics and same kinds of maybe income levels and things like that. But I'm just amazed at building culture in basketball, where you're going to have, the doctor's kid who's a standout at one high school, and maybe a Bay Area, really tough inner city program where a kid is the standout there and makes their way to Chico State. And then you're making these two best friends.
Well, and that's the beauty of it too. There's so in men's and women's basketball, football, I think is a lot like this too. There's so much diversity. And you get people from all different walks of life. You get people from all different religions. We have people that come from parents who are highly educated. And then we've had lots and lots of first-time college, got first generation college students. And those are the ones that really touch your heart, when you have a guy who's the only person in his family that has gone to college and now is graduating college. I mean, just the pride that they have, the family has, and to know that you played a small part in helping that is really gratifying. And you talked about the legacy part, like that gives me chills, like that, to be able to be part of something like that. But you're right, the diversity, and there are so many different types of people that play this game, and to bring them together and try and get them to mesh. And I really, if to give you like my philosophy on team chemistry, right? People do a lot of different things to build teams. First and foremost, to me, if you get a group of people, could be different religions, come from different areas, different political beliefs. If they're good people and you put them around each other, you're probably going to have good team chemistry. But they've got to be good people, and they've got to be after the same goal, and they've got to have those characteristics we started talking about at the beginning, that selflessness, that wanting of brotherhood, wanting to be successful, wanting to win. If you can rally different people around goals like that, if they're really great people, we've had a lot of success doing that.
I love that you talk about really recruiting like great people. And it's, I always refer to in my speeches and stuff, how basketball players at the free throw line, what do? They take a deep breath. Mm-hmm. They're in a very high stress environment, and they're trying to execute on a strategy or a behavior that they've practiced.
Right.
And I think, team chemistry or being a good person takes practicing in behaviors in high stress environments. If my reflex is, maybe I grew up in an environment where, when dad gets upset, he's yelling at everybody, and maybe it's an unhealthy environment. And I'm like, I might model that.
Right.
And my reflex would be to chip back at a teammate when they make a mistake, or when I make a mistake, and creating a platform for them to really reveal those good qualities in high stress environments.
And like those examples you're giving, we deal with that. We deal with confrontation and we recruit great people, but it's not all roses, right? You get 14 guys, competitive guys in the same room. It gets competitive. It gets chippy at times. But the thing you teach them is like those things can happen, and we can have those type of interactions, but we learn from them. And when they are over, it's over. An example might be two guys, start getting chippy in practice, right? You want that type of competition. You want it to only go so far, but when that practice is over, they're hugging and telling each other, "Hey, I love you. I respect you." That's when it gets really good, is when you can have those type, but you're like the things you're talking about, the habits, creating habits, how you handle adversity, knowing a situation that you might see at home and how you've handled it growing up might not be the appropriate way to handle it on a basketball court or in a classroom. And so trying to really teach guys how to handle hard times, handle adversity, creating good habits, responding the right way. And those are constant conversations.
Well, coaches are always, they turn into these mentors, and, a mentor sees in somebody something they don't see in themselves. Mm-hmm. And coach has a perspective, the off the court perspective. And, maybe you can't still dunk. I don't know if you can, but you can coach, skills because of your perspective.
Right.
And perspective is so important when you build that trust. And like you say, we learn through it and we love through it, and teammates that really find the ability to appreciate that tough love that you might have to give. I'm sure you've been to plenty of player weddings. They invite coach to.
It's funny you bring that up. So, yes, been to a lot of weddings. I've actually performed the wedding ceremony at 4 different guys' weddings.
No way.
I started it with a guy that I coached at UC Davis, and have had at least 3 at Chico State that have had me do their weddings.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's special. It's for my wife and I. That's part of the best part of some of this is the relationships that we build with these guys while they're playing here, and then the relationships that we have with them for years and years, seeing them have families. I was just with one of my former players last weekend, and he and a bunch of his teammates that I coached are going up to Tahoe to have a reunion, so those are the things that make me feel good, that they had such a great experience playing here, that they still want to get together 10 years out, 15 years out. So that's special.
Well, you mentioned family. Coaching is a very sacrificial job. It's not always, on the sideline calling timeouts. It's being away from your family, recruiting and kids and wife and all that. Give us a glimpse into like what's Coach's personal life look like.
Yeah,
I know your wife. And
kids. My kids are grown now. I've had my twin boys that are 20 years old. I have an 18-year-old that's a senior in high school. He'll be graduating here in a couple weeks. So it's not as tough now as when they were little. You know, when they were young, when we first moved here, I think our twins were 5 and my little guy was 3. And those first probably 8, 9, 10 years was hard when they need parents around, you know. And it's not like I'm gone all the time, but there are certain weeks out of the year and certain times out of the year where I'll be gone for 4 or 5 days on a road trip, you know, gone in the summer recruiting. So when they were younger, it was a little tougher. Now, you know, I laugh at my 18-year-old. I don't even know if he knows I'm gone, you know, but so times have changed a little bit, but great support system at home. My wife is amazing. She is my rock and has been so supportive of my career and where it's taken us. But yeah, it's a great family, really supportive. My kids grew up going to games at Acker Gym. So yeah, it's been a fun experience, you know, having them here and growing up in Chico.
I'm sure there's plenty of players that come knocking on your door on a weekend or on a holiday and they didn't get to go home and you're like, come on in, there's room for you. You know, I mean. Yeah,
we try and bring our guys into our house, you know, different times of the year. And so they're around my family. It's an interesting dynamic. No, when my kids were younger, these players that I coached were always their role models and people that they looked up to. And I always went with the philosophy that if you're not a good role model for one of my kids, then you're probably not going to be a part of our program, right? Well, this last year we were at a booster's house for dinner and my kids came and I'm looking around and my 2 oldest are older than about a third of my team. So it's just a different dynamic as the years go on. But my family is a big part of my team and my team is a big part of my family.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you know, we both live in Chico, love Chico. So what's unique about the Chico environment and what do you love most about coaching here?
Chico's great. I mean, the town, we're a Division II program, as you mentioned. We play a lot of schools in the Bay Area. We play schools in Southern California, in the Los Angeles area, San Diego area. And I would say that one of the things that makes this situation in this program, this athletic department really unique is that we're the only show in town. You know, the closest thing to us is the Sacramento Kings, which is an hour and a half away. Now, if you're a Division II program in the Bay Area, you've got Stanford and Cal and Santa Clara and the Warriors and the Giants and the A's and the 49. I mean, there's always something to go to, right? But if you're a fan of baseball or volleyball or basketball and you live in Chico, you're coming to Chico State games. So for our players, for our student athletes, it's fun. It's a big deal. They get recognized in town. People on campus know who they are. People in the community know who they are. And that's something that we sell in the recruiting process, you know, that you're gonna be different. It's going to be different than if you went to a school, you know, where it's a commuter school. It's a college town, and people are going to know who you are on campus. People are going to know who you are in the community. They're going to come to the games. We get good crowds. We lead the league in attendance every year. Yeah. So it's a special place to play. Yeah. You know, it's a special place to play. We have the TV cameras. The news comes in to practice. You know, we've got a radio guy that follows us. We've got a newspaper that follows us. Yeah, and these people know who our players. And that another reason why it's so important that we have high character guys, because they are our role models for kids that come to our camps, kids that come to our games. They represent the university, obviously, our program. So it's fun.
Like you're saying, you know, to go from the best high school player in some town to then Chico, and like you said, Chico, we're the only game in town. So obviously, if one of your players does something good on the weekend, you probably don't hear about it.
Right.
One of your players makes a bad decision and, you know, runs a car into a tree and happens to have a little drinking going, you know, then the whole town's going to know tomorrow. Sure. You know, I don't know of any stories, but you know, in all leadership, whether you're leading at Microsoft or you're leading a basketball program, as soon as you put on the brand, you represent the brand.
And that's one of the things I call it being a billboard, right? Like when we go through the airport, we bus down to the airport, Sacramento, fly to Los Angeles. It's like, how do we present ourselves, right? And you know as well as I do, when people hear Chico State, what's the first thing they think about? party school, right? And so I know that when we're traveling, when we're leaving on a Wednesday night and we're going to play Thursday and Saturday in Southern California, for example, we're going to be in 2 different airports. We're going to be in multiple restaurants, 2 different hotels. We have about 4 days to change the perception of that, right? And I want people looking at how our student athletes conduct themselves and how they treat people, how they treat flight attendants, how they treat hotel staff, how they interact with each other in a restaurant. You know, I want people looking at that and saying that Chico State produces. I mean, what's going on up there, right? So it's important, you know, that we, you know, have those conversations. And you talked about things going on in town, and there's no secrets. If you do something in town, people are going to know. And so those are constant conversations that we're having, especially when we get them early on. Yeah. You know, we get a freshman in the dorms. Here's how you're going to be perceived in the dorms because you're an athlete. You're going to be held to a different standard. You got to conduct yourself the right way. Here, you know, when we have this weekend, first weekend of school in Chico it gets a little crazy sometimes, right? Well, you need to make sure that you're in the right place at the right time, making the right choices, so it's just constant conversations, constant parenting and education.
Yeah, it's like, say, choices, and it's like choices we make in high stress on a basketball court reflect in choices we make on a Saturday night when we're hanging with our friends. Yep. And as a coach, you're coaching them to like behaviors that are transcending just being on the court. Yes. And like I said, when they do something great, nobody hears about it. You do something, you know, you make some layups. Okay, cool. You know, you miss a shot at the last second of the game. I can't believe you took that shot. Yeah. You know, it's like, it's tough. With great power comes great responsibility. Sure. And I think right now, honestly, and it's kind of fun to even bring up like Caitlin Clark and like what's happened in women's basketball. And yeah, she could put the ball in the hoop, but I think she exemplified a lot of what you're talking about as far as
she really did. That was a great story, you know, because not only is she a great basketball player, but everything you see about her, she seems like a great role model. She handles herself the right way. She conducts herself the right way. She obviously has worked really hard at her craft. Yeah. She seems like she's about the right things, you know, so that was a great story to celebrate for sure.
Yeah. And we're nearing the end of this short amount of time we have. So the GOAT, Jordan or LeBron?
Well, you know, I grew up watching Michael Jordan, so I always say Jordan, but I always say if you're going to make an argument, I'm not going to argue hard about it, you know, because I think they're both phenomenal, you know, and I think they're both two of the two greatest to ever play the game. I think you could throw Kobe Bryant in there too, you know, but yeah, I think all those guys are just phenomenal. So I say Jordan, but I could be swayed.
You know, but as a coach, you hear the stories of where Jordan might have not been a great teammate. But when I look at it, the calculus is pushing people to tap into parts of themselves that are beyond where they would go on their own. Yeah. He was good at that.
He was really good at that.
And he would set the example, not just sit back and go, you need to work harder. He'd be like, I'm going to work harder. Are you coming with me?
Yeah. No, he had a way of really pushing his teammates, you know, and not everybody liked playing with him, you know, because he was ultra competitive and hard on you. And if you couldn't live up to that, it was tough to play with him. But obviously, what I say, the GOAT, you know, he was great. I got a, quick, when I say Kobe Bryant, when I was an assistant at Santa Barbara, young assistant, I was 26, 27 years old. The Los Angeles Lakers had training camp at UC Santa Barbara. So they'd come in for a week right before their season was about to start. And that first year, was in 1998. I was a first-year assistant there. And Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Dale Harris was the coach. We got to go in and watch practice. Our coaching staff got to go in and watch practice. And there was probably another 150 people around the court watching practice. It was a circus. Practice wasn't very good. Players didn't pay attention to the coach. Weren't getting a lot done. But the one thing I noticed was Kobe Bryant, his competitive level was so high. Like you walked away and like, if there's one guy in here that's really about winning and about doing it the right way, it's Kobe Bryant. Yeah. Well, fast forward that next year, Del Harris gets fired. They bring in Phil Jackson. Okay. And now you walk into that gym, and our coaching staff were the only 4 people allowed in the gym. So it was a completely different atmosphere. Everybody was working hard, but the one constant was Kobe Bryant just getting, just getting after it and competitive. And I remember at the end of that practice, and I just had so much respect for Kobe Bryant after this, just the way he worked both those times I saw him, and they were running liners at the end of practice, and Kobe Bryant missed the line, and Phil Jackson made it do it again. And he said, "You don't miss lines, Kobe Bryant," and it was a great, because the best player in the world at that time, and he's being held accountable for touching the line with his toe, and he's like, "Yep, let's do it again." He's just so coachable, competitive. But when you brought up Kobe Bryant, I didn't really ever before that time think a lot about Kobe Bryant, but every time I hear his name, that's the memory that comes up. Cool. And it was cool. It was cool.
It's such as a coach, you want your players to like you, and like, how do you get to a point like the Phil was at, where it's like, I'm going to put the best player in the world on blast and show him I love him. And I think that's part of it. I think that that's what he was doing early on. And it worked.
He took the Laker organization over, and that was one of probably many examples that he used. Like, I'm going to coach Kobe Bryant harder than I'm going to coach the rest of you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, standards and you want to everybody wants to be liked, but what you really want to be is respected. You want to be respected, and you want your guys to really believe in what you're doing, and like it or not, even when it's hard, guys want to be held accountable for doing the right things, and that's what Phil Jackson was doing with Kobe in that circumstance. So it was fun to see.
That's a coach can often step into a parent role and really show consistency and that, love is about like trust and repeatability, and
for sure
that you can count on me to hold you to a standard, no matter what's happening around us.
Yes.
And like you say, they want that. They gravitate toward it. I know you have an awesome reputation for everything I've experienced in our conversations.
Thank you.
And, you can't, talk your way out of a situation behavior got you into.
Right.
You can't. As a coach, these players, they're going to figure out if the talk and the actions are lined up.
Yeah.
And 15 years, you've done it.
Yeah. And I say, the vision is the piece, right? You have to know what you want it to look like. You want to know, that goes from playing the game, how you want your team to play, how you want your team to conduct themselves, how you want them to act in a classroom and treat their teachers and treat each other. It's all part of the vision of what you want a program or an organization to look like. But if you don't have the resolve and the stubbornness to hold everybody accountable for that vision, then the vision's really pointless. So there's a lot that goes into it, and it's not all basketball. It's not all X's and O's. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we deal with as coaches on a daily basis that really have nothing to do with the game itself, but mentoring and creating habits and teaching different aspects of life.
Well, it's obviously you love that part of it, and your reputation as a tactician on the court and how to learn the game is equal to your reputation as a leader, motivator, mentor, and obviously, conducting weddings. What a compliment that they're like, hey, you changed me.
Yeah.
And I know there's so much satisfaction that goes with that. And then to grow your family right up into the midst of that, it is all one sort of commitment you make to create this other family that you're investing your time and energy into.
Yep.
I hope that today, and I feel like I want to keep talking, but I want to also just appreciate that I appreciate our friendship and watching you coach and watching your impact on the town for so long as a Chico State
thank you.
Alum, and just so proud of what you've built here.
The feeling's mutual. I really appreciate it and respect what you do, and glad that we have a friendship, and really excited that I was on the podcast today.
Yeah. Well, I know you speak to corporate groups, you spoke to coaching groups and student groups, and anybody out there that's thinking, hey, I want to have coach, peek in and get to know you.
I love talking about team building. I love talking about culture building. That's something that I've done and have experience doing, and love talking to, different organizations, different companies, different groups. I use basketball and athletics as kind of the avenue of how I teach it, but it's fun. I love talking about it, obviously passionate about it, and love talking about it.
Well, talking about Kobe Bryant, obviously we all miss him dearly, and he was a perfect example of someone that translated the lessons you learn through working hard and discipline and constantly improving yourself, and how that shows up everywhere
for sure
in somebody's life. And I want to, of course, Ross, who's putting our videos together, was a sportscaster in Chico. Yep. I know you know him because he probably used to interview you after.
Many interviews with Ross.
Yeah,
he's great.
So it's a special day to have you in here and have Ross in here, catching up and all of that. But we'll find you on your social media, or you send us any links that you want.
Okay.
If people want to get a hold of you, coaches, or if players have questions for you about the program and the amazing legacy that you're building here at Chico State. And I appreciate you so much.
Well, I appreciate you too.
Dip in.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with that, all right, Coach, thanks for joining us for a little time out in your busy schedule as you're coming into the end of the school year. And we're just so thankful to have you here with us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
You guys are great.
Yeah, Coach. Woohoo. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to another episode of You Go First. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you want to listen to another episode, you can find us at yougofirst.live, or you can see more about our host, Lane Hensley, on his Instagram at OneDreamChaser. To learn more about his company, Odyssey Teams Inc., go to odysseyteams.com or follow all their social media channels at Odyssey Teams. Thanks again, and we hope that you will go first to share our podcast with a friend or colleague. Now, you go first.